I need you to sit down, please. Alright, guys, today we're going to continue talking about the book Each Kindness that we read a couple times last week. And today what we're going to do is we're going to notice the events in the story that make Chloe change from the beginning to the end of the story. And we're going to have to do a little bit of inferring because the author doesn't tell us exactly what's happening or what she's feeling in the book. So we're going to have to do some inferring to figure out where she's changing in the story. So I just wrote up here the definition of inferring is when we use what we know, that's called our schema, from this anchor chart right here, and evidence from the text to read between the lines of a book to figure out what an author is trying to tell us. So the first page that we're going to look at is this one right here. Avery, I need you to move over there by Claire, please. In this page it says, "Then Miss Albert let each of us drop a stone in as we told her what kind of things we had done. Joseph held the door for his grandmother. Kendra helped change her baby brother's diaper. Even mean old Andrew had done something. I carried the teacher's books up the stairs," he said, and Miss Albert said it was true. I stood there, holding Miss Albert's rock in my hand, silent. "Even small things count," Miss Albert said gently, but I couldn't think of anything and passed the stone on. So from this page, what can we infer that Chloe is feeling right now? Alina, what can we infer that Chloe is feeling right now?
Really sad because she didn't do a kindness to the girl that was new.
Maya, yes. And what on this page tells you that Maya is feeling sad? I'm going to move the book so you can see the picture. So what, from this picture and from the words that the author wrote, what can we use to help us figure out why we think she's feeling sad? Peyton?
Because she didn't do anything nice.
Because she couldn't think of a single nice thing that she had done. And we can tell the illustrator did a really good job of drawing a picture, and just by looking at this picture, we can tell that she's feeling sad. So our example from the text is when Chloe couldn't think of a nice thing that she did. And we have to kind of read between the lines on that page because the author doesn't just tell us Chloe was feeling really sad because she couldn't think of a really nice thing that we did. So we had to infer that from the words and from the picture. Can we notice Chloe starting to change on this page? Just a little bit. Okay, the next page we're going to look at is towards the end of the book. And it's the page where she's walking home all by herself. And it says, this is after Maya didn't come to school. Can you see that? It's kind of a blur. It says, Maya didn't come to school the next day, or the day after that. Each morning I walked to school slowly, hoping this would be the day Maya returned and she'd look at me and smile. I promised myself this would be the day I smiled back. Each kindness, Miss Albert had said, makes the whole world a little bit better. So what do you guys notice on this page? Why is she hoping that Maya will come back to school? Alexis?
So she can say something nice to her.
So she can say something nice to her. And what kind of change do we notice in Chloe on this page? Elizabeth?
She's sadder than she was on the other page.
She is sadder, and she's more sad, and she's feeling even more guilty because now she doesn't have the chance to be nice to Maya. What kind of change do we see in her character? So her as a character, we know that she's sad, and we know that she's hoping Maya will come back to school so she can be nice. But what do you notice in her change of character? How is she different as a person? Aiden?
She's trying to become nicer.
She's trying to be nicer. How do you guys think this might affect how Chloe treats the other kids at school, or even maybe a new person that comes to the school? How do you think she has changed? Alina?
She would change of then be their friend and trying to make all the friends she has wants, instead of when people try to offer her something like wanting to play with them, she's saying no and being mean.
That's how she was, but how has she changed? What do you think she would do now that she's kind of learned about kindness from Miss Albert, and she's hoping that Maya will come back? How do you think she has changed as a character? What do you think she might do next time?
She might greet the new kid and be a friend with.
Yeah, instead of, remember how she turned away from Maya and pulled all of her stuff away from her and was like, I don't really want to talk to you. Next time, she might say, hi, welcome to whatever their school is called, and she's going to be really kind. So our example from the text on this page is she's hoping Maya will be at school. And we see her character changing. So I'm going to write her character is becoming kind. So now we're going to talk about how does this help me as a reader and how does this help me as a writer? Why do you think it's important for us as readers to look at characters and understand how they change from the beginning to the end of the story? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think, and then I'm going to have you share with your shoulder partner. So I want you to think about why is it important for us to think about how characters change from the beginning to the end of a story? Have about 2 more seconds. Okay, get with your shoulder partner. I want you to turn and talk. Why is it important for us to understand how characters change from the beginning to the end of a story? Elena, you're going to be with Brett. Bella, you and Carson, and you two. Landy, you can go in a group of 3. Brett, turn and talk, please. That group right there. You guys have about 15 seconds to share. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Claire, turn back this way. I noticed a couple people already want to share their answers. So, how does this help you as a reader to understand how a character changes throughout a story? Anastasia, who was your partner? And what did you and Alexis talk about? Elizabeth.
About learning the lesson in the book.
And why do you think it's important for us to understand how Chloe changed from the beginning to the end of the story, for us to understand what the message of the story is?
To understand, if you've done that, it's like a lesson that you learned and not.
That's a very good answer. So she said it's important for us to understand what Chloe went through so that we can apply it to our own life. If we've never done anything kind before, we might think next time before we interact with somebody and do the kind thing instead of the unkind thing. Alina, who was your partner?
Brett,
And what did you guys talk about?
we talked about when people move, like if they be mean people and they move away from their friends, they want to be nicer.
Okay, want to be nicer when people move. Kaylin, who was your partner?
Nice.
And what did you girls talk about? Okay, girls, I'm hearing some talking and we need to be respectful of Kaylin because she's sharing her ideas.
She didn't want to be nice to Maya because she was always the quiet and we didn't move down to the end. When Maya moved, she wouldn't be her friend.
Yes. Brayden, what did you and Aiden talk about?
We just said she got sadder at the end of the story.
And how does that help us as a reader to understand that she changes? All right, you guys all had really good ideas, but Alexis, I think you got it spot on, you and Anastasia. Every single book that you read, Dalton, turn this way, please. There is something that the author wants to tell you as the reader. So as a reader, we need to understand that characters change throughout the story for us to get the full message. If in this book, I want you to think about, if Chloe didn't change in this story and she just was the same old mean girl and how she treated Maya, would you guys have learned a lesson from this book?
No.
No, because she was unkind in the beginning, she was unkind in the middle, and she was unkind at the end. What lesson is there to be learned? Nothing.
Be unkind. Be unkind.
Yeah, who wants to learn to be unkind? But since Chloe did change from the beginning to the end of the story, and we see her changing, we can apply that to our own life and say, oh, well, maybe I need to think about the things that I do and make sure that I'm being kind because someday I might not have the chance to be kind to somebody. Okay, so this helps me as a reader to understand the message. And I love how Alexis put it, the lesson the author is trying to teach us. So now let's think about, how does this help me as a writer? Why is it important for us to understand that characters need to change? How does that help us as a writer when you think about writing your own stories? Alina, what do you think?
That it helps because knowing people change, it's like knowing people's changing how they feel.
Okay, knowing that people change, we're changing how they feel. But how does that help you when you write a story? Remember I said that whenever you read a book, there's always something that you can learn from that book. What do you do as a writer? What do you do when you write something? Why do you write it? Brett, why do you write?
Because it's fun and you have an idea of what to write.
Okay, it's fun. What's another reason we write? Avery?
So that people can learn to read.
So that people can learn to read. That's a good idea. Claire, why do you think we write?
To teach people lessons?
To teach people lessons. Think about, you guys just wrote stories about a time that you made a decision that you shouldn't have. And the book that we read on Temple Books called Pigs, and the decision that she made that she shouldn't have. I was reading somebody's story about disobeying their mom. I can't remember whose story it was. And they said, I will never do that again. So me as a reader, I was like, man, if I was, after I read this story, I don't think I'm going to disobey my mom and dad, because this is what happened to this person whenever they disobeyed their mom. So I don't want to do that because I don't want to get in trouble. So Claire, you're exactly right. We write to give people a message or teach them a lesson. So we need to understand that there has to be a change from the beginning to the end of the story in order for us to get that message across. And I wish I could remember whose story it was. At the beginning of their story, they made the decision to disobey their mom because they wanted a piece of candy. And then they changed throughout the story, and at the end, they're like, I'm never going to do that again because that wasn't fun for me, and that probably wasn't fun for my mom to be yelling at me and ground me because she doesn't like doing that. So they changed from the beginning of wanting the candy no matter what to the end of the story that I'm never going to do that again because that piece of candy was not worth the trouble. Okay? So it helps us as writers to write stories clear for our readers to understand the message. Very good, guys. Raise your hand if you liked this book, Each Kindness.